Hi everyone, this is Alexis Percival. I'm the Vinquisitor, and this is the Vinquisition, where I look at all things of interest to me and other people about wine. This is a quick one today, and I was just going to talk about wine storage. This is something as a somm I get asked about a lot. And one of the things that I think is the most important is to think about what are you trying to do with your wine? Now, a restaurant environment where I am right now is going to have totally different types of storage and usage for their wines. Our wines need to be ready to serve, ready for our guests at the correct temperature. We're not worried quite as much about long-term storage. The wines aren't here to be cellared and aged. We're in New York City. We just don't have the room for that kind of thing. So you can just hear it kick on right now. That's our portable air conditioning unit in this room. We are in the cellar of the restaurant. However, in the summer, it can get really hot down here. So first thing we're going to talk about is temperature. Ideal temperature for wine, both red and white for storage, would be 45 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Most people try to stick around 55. We have our AC set at 61. That's a temperature that it's able to keep up with throughout the summer months. Now, when I say keep up with, that's far more important because it's okay if your wine temp storage is hovering on the higher end of that. You just want to keep it steady. That's the most important thing, is to avoid wild fluctuations, right? We want it to stay about the same. Why? I think this is really important. I'm a nerd. I love to know what's the answer. Why don't we do these things, or why do we? The reason here is that if the wine gets hot, it gets cooked. That results in a flat taste and flat flavors. You basically maderize the wine. You'll know about maderization and Madeira in my other video. And if it's too cold, as in the wine gets to a freezing temperature, ice crystals can form, it expands, and it can push the cork out, which will then, obviously we don't want air to get in there. We don't want wine to get back out. Another thing, you notice this is a dark room. I have the light on me right now, but normally we keep the light off. Why? UV light damages the wine and it prematurely ages the wine. So we don't want that. That's why we keep it out of the sunlight. Humidity. Yes, there's a range of humidity that you want to stay between that's ideal, but basic rule of thumb is you don't want super arid, dry conditions like a desert, and you don't want it to be too damp. Why? Too dry and your corks can dry out, shrink, and again, allow that seepage. Yeah, I said it, seepage. Or too damp can cause mold. Now, you might think that would spoil the wine. It really won't. If the cork is properly in there, it'll just cause some like gnarliness on top of the cork, but it will ruin your label, and that can get pretty gross. They can fade, they get discolored. Also, just look, that's gross. And certainly not acceptable in a restaurant environment. What to avoid and why? You want to avoid long-term storage in a regular refrigerator. Your regular refrigerator is very cold, it's less than 45 degrees to facilitate food preservation. That it is also a very dry environment, and that can cause, again, the corks to shrink. We don't want that to happen. Now, when we say long-term, I'm talking don't buy a case of wine and store it in your regular refrigerator at 45 degrees. Yes, for long-term storage, we want to lay down our bottles, but you'll notice here at the restaurant, again, what is the end point? The point is that this is a restaurant for service. These wines are flying out the doors. We tip the wines to their side, ideally, to keep the cork damp, again, to keep it expanded so that it doesn't leak. However, these wines are moving. They're not, they're not going to be sitting here for very long. So this type of storage is perfectly fine. However, laying your bottles down can be a more efficient way to store them. So I think you just have to think about what your situation is. Cardinal rule. For the love of all that is holy, do not store your wine on a wine rack on top of your refrigerator or above your oven. You get way too much movement and way too much heat. I know it's a convenient spot to put your wine bottles and you can show off like, look, I drink wine. But don't do it. It's a big mistake. Even the wine you spent 10 bucks on, don't make it worse. Just treat your wine right. A good rule of thumb, especially if you live in a city like I do, where space is limited, great places to keep your wine would be in your closet and under your bed. So basically anywhere where the boogeyman lives, your wine can live, as long as it's dry, has a consistent temperature, not too hot, not too cold. not too wet, not too dry. It's just Goldilocks zone of wine storage and boogie bin. Think about it that way. You'll have an easy time. I'll shoot a little video at the end of this to just give a little tour of some of the storage. Keep in mind, this is a restaurant. So I said it 6 times already. So this is a bit more of a do what I say, not as I do, because whatever your home situation is, whether you're a serious collector or you're someone that the wine doesn't last for more than 10 minutes in your house, you know, adapt these things for your own usage. That's the real key there. Yeah, I'll shoot a little video so you can see what we do. And thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again on the Vinquisition.
So as I was saying in the video, I'm just going to give you a little bit better view of this room. We have, you know, our cooking wine storage and our red wine storage and some cases. Pretty straightforward. Space is at a premium here in New York City, but we have a steady temperature. It's dry. You want to keep your wine room clean. Let's move on, and I'll show you some of our white wine. Okay, here behind me, you can tell it's a little loud in here, is our white wine, sparkling, orange wine, and rosé storage. Now, yeah, it's a deli fridge. That's exactly right. It is a deli fridge. It is really cold in there, and as I said, you don't want long-term storage for your wines in a regular refrigerator, which this is. However, these wines have to be ready for service. So when somebody orders, staff can just come down, grab the bottle, and it's ready to serve. Shouldn't have to chill it. Again, I would not recommend this for a case that you're laying down for any significant length of time. And probably also see there the tags on the bottles. That is how I denote when something is the last bottle. So wine tags can be really cool for your own organization as well. But yeah, here in our case, I use them to denote that the wine is 86 or we've run out of it, and so I know I have to either order more or reprint the menus. Okay, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.